Hi, this is Cheryl back with you from Farmhouse Frugally. Thanks for joining me today as we are falling for farmhouse. I haven't done a farmhouse video in quite some time. I've been doing a lot of other genre, so I thought it would be fun. When I think of farmhouse, I think a little bit of utilitarian, things that you would just have around the house because you needed them. And so I found this spool of yellowy orange colored thread at the dump on the good table, and I thought it would make an adorable pumpkin. So I went through my wooden spindles and found one that had been cut off that was a pretty good size. And I just kind of jammed that in there with some floral foam, and then I am adding some dark antiquing wax to the stem to give this a nice vintagey color to it. And then I will go ahead and wipe most of that back. Then I'm going to take a little bit of this, I don't know what this is called, some kind of basket filler. When you get a gift basket, you get all this little filler with it. So that is something that will hold the stem in place and also looks kind of cool, a little bit like the Spanish moss. So I'm just going to use that to decorate. And then I'm going to take out some of the florals that I have. This is an unusual color, this yellowy orange. So I opted to keep everything a little bit neutral here for the rest of the color tone. So I added a couple of leaves to that, and then I went in and took some creamy florals. They're a little bit spring-like, but I like the color with the rest of this, and these are just Dollar Tree flowers that I had hanging around, and I am just going to go ahead and glue a bunch of those kind of cascading in the front of this to make this sweet little pumpkin. I do like decorating with these little vintage spools of string, and if you ever are able to find them for, $1 or $2, it's worthwhile picking them up. There's a lot of ways that you can use them in your home decor. And then once I had that done, I just took out some of the Dollar Tree lace ribbon and tied that around the base of the stem, and that is it. Another way to make a pumpkin. I mean, we're always looking as crafters for different things that we can use to create pumpkins out of, to give you all some ideas. So if you have something like this hanging around your house, maybe you can recreate this. And I would love to know what you think about this little spool of string pumpkin. Now that is going to take me on to my second item, but before I get into that, I want to tell you about a product sponsoring this video, so if you would bear with me for 2 minutes. So if you've been following along at all, you know that we've been redoing our bedroom. This wall was not insulated, had a big crack, so we have gutted it, sheetrocked it, insulated it, put the wall color back up, and today we are going to use a product to hang the art on this wall. And I am using this X-Cool wall mountable laser level to help me get the pictures on the wall. This also has a drill hole and a dust collector. It is rechargeable, so you don't need batteries, and it is going to be a very handy tool for us to use to get this done. So follow along, and also I will put the product description and the link to it in my description box, and I will also put a code in that same description box if you would like to purchase it at a discount. And so let's hang some art. And there are so many more applications for this tool. My husband already has several in mind. So that takes me on to this next item. This is a good-sized basket that I got for free on the Good Table at my dump, I believe. I don't recall for sure. Either way, it was free to me in my stash, and it's a little orangey. So I did make the very difficult decision that I was going to go ahead and spray paint it black. For the idea that I have, I think that it does come out very nice, but I know sometimes it is a little bit hard to paint over a basket. This one isn't anything particularly valuable, so it's a little easier. I didn't need to paint the interior. Once I had that completely done on the outside, I took out a coffee sack. This is made out of burlap, and I got 2 of them for free. Last year I went to Brimfield, which is the largest flea market in Massachusetts, and I have a video on that if you're interested. It has some spectacular items that you can find, especially if you're ever interested in coming to the Massachusetts, New Hampshire area to do some antiquing. So I am basically cutting down what was left of this coffee sack and trying to make sure that I could fit that inside my basket. But I kept the sewn edges so that I could turn that toward the raw side toward the basket and just go around and glue that into the basket. So I'm showing you here that I am just kind of folding down the top. I have a lot of little glue hairs and I am going to put a little bit of glue onto the fabric or onto the basket, and then I am just going to press that fabric in along the inside edge of the rim. And I go around and around the whole basket with this sack, and then when I come to the end, I meet the 2 sides together. It fit absolutely perfect. And then I have to cut away a little bit of fabric in the bottom so that I can glue the bottom part down into the basket. You don't have to, if it's for yourself or whatever. You may not need to make the basket bottom terribly fancy, but I do like to make it as cleaned up and glued down as possible. And it takes a few minutes to do this. I have done it with different kinds of fabric, and I actually think that this burlap one looks very primitive, country or even farmhouse in nature. Now, depending on what you put on this, I'm going to make this one look actually a little bit more primitive country probably by the time I'm done, more so than farmhouse. But I think obviously you could decorate this any way that you like. So I used to have a farmhouse, primitive country type shop, and so I had a lot of fabrics left over, and so I am just going to tear a rectangle of a primitive country kind of fall fabric that I think would look great with this basket, and I'm going to glue a square of what was left over from the coffee sack burlap onto that, and then I am going to go ahead and just hot glue that right onto the front of the basket. Now here I have decided that I want to decoupage onto a piece of drop cloth and then just add that to the front. So I could have done something with pumpkins, I could have stamped words, I could have done a crow, which would be incredibly country, but decided to keep this more in the farmhouse, that I would go ahead and use this pretty sunflower. It also was in the right landscape versus portrait that I needed, and it had a little bit more of the color tones that was in the fabric that I chose. And I just printed that on rice paper from the graphicsfairy.com for free. Added the Mod Podge to the bottom and then a significant amount of Mod Podge over the top. I love the way that rice paper kind of adheres into the fabric with Mod Podge, and it just makes it almost like a shiny canvas, or I don't know, it incorporates it into the fabric, and it is just a great way to decoupage onto fabric. And then I just went ahead and glued that right on to the fabric that was already onto the basket, and that is all that I did to this. I added a little strip around the handle of fabric, and that was it. So I am going to decorate that and show you what that looks like. So I have it here with some florals, and then I went ahead and added add some different colored pumpkins that I had gotten last year at Hobby Lobby at 90% off to add those in to give you that fall feel with this primitive country or farmhouse feeling basket. Did take my finger sander and sand back some of the black paint to let the basket show through to give that a more distressed farmhouse feeling to the basket, but that is completely optional. Now that takes me on to this next project, which I have a couple weeks ago. I was out in my garage and I saw all these little spindles that I had cut down, and I thought, you know what, I just want to do a very basic project with this, and right away I knew exactly what I wanted to do with it. So I decided today was the day to do it. And then sure enough, as soon as I get this done, I turn on another crafter. They had done the very same thing. So great minds think alike, I guess. So I had just started with a white chalk paint and gave this, I mean, obviously this orangey color is very pumpkin-y and very fall-like, and so this would have been great by itself, but I wanted to stamp some words on these, so I wanted to give them more of a white base to begin with. And then once they're dry, I just pulled out a whole bunch of different stamps that I had in my stash with some black ink, or actually I think I went with brown ink, and then I am just rolling over the words and some just graphics here to put a little bit on either end of these spindles. So once I have all of these ends done, then I went into my stash, and this is what made me think about fall. I am a spinner, so I have a lot of different yarn around my home, and so I went into my yarn stash and found a couple of fall colors and decided that I just wanted to put them around these decorated spools and just sort of add a little bundle to a little vignette here or there in my home to give me a fall, just pop of color. I did add some dark wax, especially to either end, to give this a little bit more of that vintage feeling. And then I went into that yarn stash. Now, the spool of my spinning wheel, I had left over a single ply. I never did finish spinning that into a double ply, but I thought, well, that's the color that I'm looking for, so I'll just go ahead and start with that. And it is a rusty orange color, and I did want some of the wood to show through that. I didn't want it to be perfectly filled up, because the whole point of these spindles is the beautiful center that they have there. But if I had cut these spindles differently, I would have kept the ridges on the ends, and I would have filled the yarn in the center, but then I wouldn't have been able to do the stamps. I also had a green spool of yarn that I had gotten last year or even the year before on the good table at my dump. So that I thought was also another beautiful color for fall. And then I went back to my wool that I had spun, and I had some cream colored yarn that I had spun. So I just put that onto the third one to go ahead and give me the color scheme that I was looking for. And then I just opted to take a piece of twine and to bind the three of these together. When I have a minute, I'll probably make up a pretty fall hang tag or something for the center of this, and then that will be all there is to it. So let me know what you think about today's farmhouse fall items and whether or not you have begun to decorate for fall yet. Now, I would love to know your idea of farmhouse. So drop me a comment about what things you think about when you think about the word farmhouse. I know that a lot of people have said they are straying away from farmhouse and they're heading into another direction, but I find that funny because I see often when people run a poll as to what people want to see, so many of the people have chosen farmhouse over and over and over again, so I don't think it's ever going to die. Now, I want to thank X Cool for sponsoring this video, and thank you for stopping by. And I appreciate your subscribing and your comments and your liking and everything so that my channel can continue to grow. I'm getting very, very close to 3,000, at which time I'm going to be doing a giveaway. So make sure that you are subscribed so you can take part.